Okay, we're going to get into the measuring the feet now. This is the most important part of your boot making. You don't do this right, you don't get the fit of the boot right, you don't have a happy customer. We'll go over it slowly, and I'll try and get everything very clear for you. I fit everything to the bones of a person's foot, because the bones of a person's foot are the only thing that's the same from person to person. The first place we're going to measure is across the ball of the foot. It's the widest part of the foot, right across here. It's the distal end of the metatarsal bones. It's where your big toe bones join. The next place we're going to measure is directly behind it, on the narrowing of the foot, right here. This is the waist of your foot. It's the shallowing right behind the ball of your foot. If you run your fingers back, and you can feel it. You feel dropping past this bone joint right here. Okay, from there we'll move up to the middle instep measurement, which is right across here. And this is the proximal end of your metatarsal bones, or the end closer to the ankle bone. You're going to measure directly across your joint, like so. This is what everybody refers to as their high instep, and it isn't the high instep, it's the middle instep. From here we would move to the high instep, which is directly across the fifth metatarsal bone here. You're going to go straight up the top of the foot, over the flattened area of the foot, which is the navicular bone, and you're going to go right across the top of it, like so. Okay? If you follow these bones, you're going to have a pretty good roadmap of where to go on the last. It will make sense to you once we start transferring the foot measurements to the last measurements. From the instep measurement, we're going to go to the heel measurement, which will go directly from your navicular bone across and straight down to the heel, like so. You're going to wrap it around the foot. This will give you the four major places to measure on the last for fit. We'll transfer these measurements to the last. I might as well get started on the foot here.
You might show them where that metatarsal sticks out on the side there, on the side of the foot.
On the fifth metatarsal joint, yes. This is what you're going to look for on the side of the foot. If you take and run your finger along their foot and press in, press firmly. Don't be afraid to look for the bones. You'll feel this joint. It sticks out very predominantly on people. It's pretty easy to find. And then draw a straight line over across the top of the foot. When you get to the top of the foot, you're going to find almost like a socket. You'll go up over the middle instep measurement, and you're going to drop down a little bit, and that would be your high instep. These are the points you look for here. When you draw your line for your middle instep, you're going to use this same bone on the side of your foot and go across the middle instep. I'll show you here. Okay, have the person cross their legs. Let the foot hang loose. If the foot isn't loose, if they tense up on you, the foot can change as much as a quarter of an inch. So you want them to be relaxed. Take your fingers and feel the bones. Feel the bottom of their foot. Look for a bunion. Look for calluses. Look for corns. All of these we are going to put on the last when we transfer the measurements to the last. If they've got a bunion on their big toe, the last has got to have the bunion on it. We're going to take the tape, and we're going to run it right directly across the ball of the foot, the widest area of the foot. Bring it around and stretch it snug. Take all the slack out of it. Everybody's going to develop their own feel for this. It's something you have to develop, but you want to get consistent about it. You want to measure all the feet the same. You don't want to pull one tighter than the other. So take the slack out of it. Make a notation on your chart of what this is. Move your tape directly back behind the ball of the foot. We're going to measure the waist of the foot. Again, the same thing. You'll discover that the waist will generally run the same as the ball of the foot, or up to a quarter inch smaller. They run pretty close. From here we're going to go to the middle instep, which again is what I say a lot of people consider their high instep. It's going to be the large bony piece that you feel on top of their foot. Lay the tape directly across it, come down to the metatarsal head on the side of their foot that I was speaking of, and run the tape around. And again, give yourself about the same amount of pressure. If you leave the tape on the bottom of their foot and just slide this tape up to this hollowing spot that I'm speaking of, you'll still have it on the side of their foot where it belongs. This is the high instep measurement. Okay? From here we're going to move, keeping it in the same place on the top of their foot, directly around the heel, like so. When you have the tape drawn up fairly snug, have them point their toes directly down. This will tell you how much of a heel drop they have, and it directly relates to how the boot's going to fit as far as heel slip. Once you get the foot measurements done and you've written all the measurements down, make sure you write left under left and right under right. Have the person stand up. Take your sheet, place it under their foot. Have them place the other foot even with the other foot, so that their weight is evenly distributed. You don't want more on one or the other. We're going to trace their foot. Hold the pencil straight up and down. If you don't, you have a tendency to undercut the foot, and you tip the pencil, you're going to end up with a short measurement. So keep it straight up and down. Go all the way around the foot. At this time, it's a good time to note if there is a corn or a bunion. Make a note of it. Draw arrows, flags if you have to, so that once this person's gone, you have this record, you know what you're doing. Okay, we'll switch feet here. Always do both feet. You're not going to get an accurate record of this person unless you do both of them. Even though that when you've taken the measurements and the feet seem identical, do it to both of them. Don't shorten yourself anywhere on it. Again, making note of any corns, calluses. Okay. From here, we'll take an impression. I use a pedograph. I'll show you what a pedograph is here. Okay. With a pedograph, you basically have an ink pad with a retractable rubber pad for them to stand on. This gives you an impression of their foot. I'll show you how it works here. You have the customer stand down, their heel on it first, put all their weight on this foot, and just have them take a normal stride. Come right up on their toes. Okay. This gives you an accurate reading of the condition of their arch, where they carry their weight on their foot. As you can see, this person has a pretty healthy arch. There's not much ink in this area. If this was flat-footed, it'd be very wide through here. All this would be inked. They carry quite a bit of weight on the ball of their foot. When you do this, do both feet again. Again, have them place their heel down. All the weight on this foot, and just take a normal stride again, right up on the toe. This gives you a permanent record. Or you have the alternative method of using baking soda and water here. We'll show you. To where if you don't want to spend the money on a pedograph right away, I believe they're about $150. And we've come up with another method here that works equally well. I'll demonstrate for you. This is basically a pan with a sponge in the bottom of it that we've added baking soda and water to. You take and have the person stand in the pan. This is called goldenrod mimeograph paper. You can buy it at any mailing shop. Have them stand in the pan. Make sure that the bottom of their foot gets fairly wet. Have them transfer and stand on the paper. Okay. What you end up with is basically another footprint. You might tell them to bring a dry pair of socks because they're going to get wet. You also will want to trace around this outline because this will fade in time. 6-8 months, you really won't be able to tell where the footprint is. So you want to use this method for the time being. Trace around the foot so you've got an accurate record once this starts fading. Again, do it to both feet so that you have a record. Write their name on this. If you have 3 or 4 orders laying back there and you get them mixed up, you have no name on them, you don't know who goes to what on it. So when you're done with each individual step, write their name on it. Next, we're going to measure the length of their foot. This is a common red stick. Okay. Make a notation of it on your board. On this copy of the sheet of paper we're going to be sending you, there will be lists of what you want: the ball, the width, the waist, the low and the middle and the high instep, the length of the foot. It's kind of an inventory sheet, so you know you won't forget anything. Again, measure both feet. Okay. When you measure their foot with the red stick, you want them to put their weight on it, because a foot may grow as much as 1/4 of an inch when a person puts their weight on it. So have them measure their feet with weight on it, so you get the full length of their foot. At this time, you're going to want them to choose what type of a heel, what type of a toe they want on their Western boot. I basically give them 3 choices. They can pick anything in between, because you're going to actually build the toe character anyway. It really isn't that much more difficult to give them, say, a little more of a square toe if they want it. Heel styles, again, are directly related to the type of last you're using. You can vary the height on the heel of a last as much as a 1/2 inch. You could go from, say, 1 1/4 to 1 3/4 without drastically affecting the walk of the boot. A last has a certain amount of toe spring in it, and you have to accommodate that. This is all things you want established at the time the customer's there, so you don't have to call them back and hound them and say, "I'm sorry, I forgot what type of heel, what type of toe you want." Establish it all at the same time. I thought at this time we'd go over the sheet for you, give you some idea. Like I said, we're going to send you one of these sheets. It's basically a checklist, so when you're working with the customer, you won't forget anything. I'll go down it with you and give you some idea of what we're talking about. This is a old checklist that I copied from another bootmaker. It has everything that I use on it, and then some. It lists whether the customer is right or left-handed. I don't use that. It lists heel wear, whether they wear their heel to the outside, the inside. I do mention that. It lists size bought. I pay particular attention to that, because that tells me how they've been fitting themselves. If they wear a boot that I feel is much narrower than I would fit them in, I'm going to fit them a little bit tighter. Fitting and special instructions are things that I fill in later. I make notes of everything I do to the last. It all goes on the sheet of paper, to where if they come back for a second pair, you know what you did the first time. The last chosen, I note the size last that I start with. If I use 2 different lasts, like a 8B and a 9B, I will also note that. I number my lasts, so I know what number it was. It has the leather that they're going to choose for the foot, the top, the trim. I keep a sample ring of leathers. I number all my leathers accordingly, so that instead of saying, well, they took the brown pigskin or whatever, I number it as well. It doesn't even hurt to take maybe a little snip of both of them and staple them right to it, so you know what they picked on it. All this seems insignificant at the time that you're working with them, but once they've gone out the door and you pick up this sheet 4 or 5 weeks later, it helps refresh your memory. It lists the type of closure they want, whether they want a featherweight boot, a welted boot. It lists the heel style they want, the height of the heel they want. It does not list the toe style, and that's something you'll have to write in. I'll make a notation on here for you, but it's something that you write in on each one. It lists the type of soling they want. It lists whether they want a mid-soling. It lists the top height and style. We do offer 2 different depths of scallop. I'll show you when we cut out a pair of tops how to change that on it. I do have a listing here for stitch pattern and the type of thread. Most of the time they don't care. Stitch patterns look so different on paper than what they do on a boot that most people say, I'll leave it up to you. It lists whether they want a toe bug, which is the wrinkle stitch on the toe of your boot here, and whether they want pulls or pull holes. This covers the front of the sheet. It also gives you it gives you a price structure to work on. I do take a deposit of 50% when they order the boots. It gives you a date when you are working on them, and gives you a date when you promised it. That helps. When you start going back and going through your sheets, you look at the date and say, I'm running late. the back, it'll give you a fitting criticism on the top. Again, make notations of the corns, the calluses. Anything that will help you at a later date remember that foot right down. Gives you a right and a left foot. It gives you the size and width again of what they bought. You've already got it on the front. I don't pay particular attention to this. It gives you the length of the foot. That was the rid stick we were talking about. The ball of the foot, the waist of the foot, the instep, the low and the high, your heel measurement. That was the measurement around your foot, from the back to the front here. And it gives you your calf measurement and at what height. If you make a 12-inch boot, you're going to measure up their leg 12 inches and measure that circumference. That'll give you the calf measurement. And again, fitting notes at the bottom. Write down everything. That I can't emphasize enough, because what is very, very clear to you while they're here, you soon forget after you've measured 2 or 3 of them. The fellow you measured first, you don't remember on it. So write down everything. You've got right and left foot on here. I trace their outline right on this piece of paper, so I don't have to keep looking for everything. The only thing that's separate from this sheet of paper are the impressions. Those I staple to it. I think we've got that pretty well covered. From here we'll go into the last work, and I'll explain a little bit on the lasts and go from there.